make the final.
Come on, Brent. That's good.
Got real close.
Hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham, and Scott is alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
You are Sean Graham. That's right. Hey, Sean. It's been a while
Yeah, been a minute.
since we had talked about curling, but the bubble marches on. There is no end to this curling bubble.
No, just keep it moving. Don't hold up the line. Just keep things moving. Yes, in this week where the Women's World Championship was scheduled to take place in Switzerland, the Curling Canada Bubble was scheduled and continues to be scheduled to host the National Mixed Doubles Championship. And that is going to kick off on Thursday morning from the bubble in Calgary. Scott, overnight from Sunday to Monday, they changed the rings.
Yeah, I saw. It's like yellow and blue.
I thought the outside was red. Or is it always red? I don't know. They changed the colors. I don't know what it is.
It's always blue on the outside, Sean.
Okay, I believe it was red then on the outside.
Well, that's weird.
It looked nice. I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of work to get that done. So good on.
Overnight. That's crazy.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so kudos to the entire ice crew out there in Calgary for getting it done. But Scott, the Canadian Mixed Doubles Championship, of interesting note there on terms of the scheduling, that there are players who can now participate in this who wouldn't have been able to participate had the Women's World Championship gone on as scheduled in Switzerland. Of course, Carrie Anderson's team would have been over there. But now members of that team are going to be playing here in Calgary. So they get another week in the bubble in addition to the 2 Grand Slams they're going to play in, and then the Women's World Championship.
Yeah, they're going to be getting more curling than they had hoped for, right?
Well, I don't know. Maybe as much as they hoped for.
Maybe more. Maybe more.
Maybe more than they hoped for.
Isn't all of their team playing?
I believe, yes. The entirety of the team is participating this week.
I saw that Shannon Burchard is playing with Caitlin, don't call me Caitlin Schneider.
Yep.
And their team is Team BS for Burchard Schneider.
Yeah, the way it's listed on the schedule is hilarious. Where they've just put the back initial, the family name initial of each player. That's how you're identified on the schedule. It's quite entertaining to look at.
Yeah, pretty good. So, Sean, this is an event with 35 teams, 70 players overall.
Mm-hmm.
Math is my strong suit. How are we going to break this down? How are we going to talk about it? Because we can't talk about 35 teams.
Sadly, no. We can't talk about all 35 teams in the time that we have allotted ourselves for this episode. So we just want to talk about some of the big things to be looking for this week out in Calgary with the mixed doubles, and some of the things that we're excited to see, some trends and themes that we might see emerge over the week. So Scott, let's get into it. 35 teams, as you mentioned, 5 pools of 7 teams each. So the teams qualified by provincial and territorial championship. So there's 14 teams that are representing their member association, and you will see them identified as such in the schedule. And I have to say, I haven't seen all the uniforms yet. I don't know what Dynasty has planned, but the Northern Ontario ones are phenomenal. I don't know if you saw them yet.
The which ones? The
Northern Ontario.
Yes. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Angry
describe
Moose.
The Angry Moose. That's so awesome.
It's great.
I love when the moose is on the jerseys.
Yeah, and it's blazoned across the front, coming right at you. It's a phenomenal jersey. So we'll see those. We'll see the provincial reps. 14 teams qualified off of CTRS points, and these are specific mixed doubles CTRS points. So they got in, those top 14 teams that were not qualified through the provincial or territorial championships. And then the final 7 teams qualified by being teams that had committed to play together, but never had the chance to. But if you combined their points from last year, they are the next 7 in. So that's how Curling Canada decided to do it. So we have 7 teams, well, 8, but 7 who have never played together and qualified that way. The 8th would be John Morris. I don't believe he's played with his partner before, but he was scheduled to play with Rachel Homan, who is not going to participate as she is now. Is she in the 9th month of her pregnancy now? I don't know what her due date was, but she is close to giving birth to her second child. So exciting news and exciting times out there for Rachel Homan and her family. But her spot is no longer going to be hers, and John Morris has found a new partner for this. So 8 teams potentially who haven't played together. That throws in a bit of an interesting wrinkle, Scott.
Yeah, but the thing is, all these teams that haven't played together are pretty good. I mean, they're all good curlers. And the asterisk of John Morris and Caitlin Laws will forever fly over or be stuck to mixed doubles curling, right?
Oh, yeah.
These teams could win.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter that they haven't played together.
Yeah, Walker Myers, the same thing. Like the first time they played together was at the national championship and they won.
That's right.
Yeah. So it can certainly happen in mixed doubles. If you're not familiar with mixed doubles, it is an 8-end game. You have to play 6 in this event. 2 stones are in play at the start of an end, a center guard, and then a stone at the back of the button or back of the forefoot. And then each team during the game has the use of the power play, where you can move those stones, make it a corner guard, and a stone above the tee line, but over in the 12-foot. So that is the general format. Scott, you've played mixed doubles. What do you think of it just in general, the style of it, the format of it, and how different is it when you're playing mixed doubles versus the 4-player game?
I really like mixed doubles, Sean. It's really fast. When you're watching a game on TV, I think we're going to be sort of shocked at how quick these games go when we're watching them on TV this week and next. The strategy is really interesting. In mixed doubles, of course, you can't hit until I think the 5th or 6th rock of the end, or 3rd or 4th. And it's like, it's all happening so fast that you're kind of like, oh, it's over already. So when I was out there playing it, what I noticed is that the level of fitness, it should be higher. That for me, especially, the getting up and sweeping or running out and sweeping, either way, it's hard. And playing a lot of these games, back to back or 3 in a day, whatever it's going to be for these teams, it's tough. It's not for the faint of heart. And the thing is that, like, all these teams that are going to be here are fit enough to play. They're all good teams, and it's a fun game because there's the opportunity for so many swings in momentum, right? There's a chance at any point that you could give up 3 or 4. So, and I don't think we're going to be seeing any blank ends here this week, Sean.
Yeah, blank ends in mixed doubles are exceedingly rare. So no worries about the mixed doubles going blank crazy, as we saw some complaints on social media during the Brier. But yeah, it is a fun game. It can sneak up on you how fast it is. And there was a bit of a rule tweak over the past couple of years, which I think has made a big difference, where in the past you had to have the players separated when you threw. So one player had to be at the end where the rock was coming, holding the broom, and the other player had to be throwing. But now you don't need that. You can have the other player who's not throwing be like a normal sweeper and not have someone hold the broom. That's a change over the past couple of years that I think has impacted the game and made sweeping a little more important, because you don't have the at least 10 feet of no sweeping at all. So I think percentages have improved a little bit because of that. These players are so good that they don't really need the broom as much. So it's one of those changes that I think has been good for mixed doubles overall.
I think so. The sweeping being so important nowadays, single sweeper style. It really helps, especially on those hits to have a sweeper when the rocks are, not curling all that much.
Yeah, no question. So the way it works is that we'll have a round robin within each pool. So each team will play 6 games. Out of that, we will get to a 12-team playoff. Now, Scott, this playoff format, little bonkos to me. So the way it's going to work is that the top 4 teams that qualify will get a bye in the first round of the playoffs. And then the 8 remaining teams in this 12-team playoff format will play each other in a loser goes home game. So the 4th or the 5th ranked team will play the 12th ranked team, and then so on and so forth. From that, the top 4 teams will match up against the 4 winners, and that'll be a single elimination to get us to 4 teams. Then those 4 teams are going to play a seeding game, one each. The 2 winners are going to go to a page playoff 1-2 game, and the 2 losers are going to go into a page playoff 3-4 game. So I don't really understand why they're doing it like this, to go from a 12 team, 2 rounds of single elimination into a page format, but that's the way it's going to work.
Sean, they're doing this so that the Tucks don't win the event. like literally, right? Because at the Worlds, we've seen a 16-team single elimination bracket.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in that sort of a way. Curling Canada, when I say they want the best representative from Canada to go and play in whatever world event in order to qualify for the Olympics, right?
Yes.
And so they don't want a team to just get hot at the right time, win 4 games in a row, and be your Canadian champion.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. I mean, what's interesting, though, Scott, is you could conceivably have 5 teams that go 6-0 in their pool play, and then they'll have to determine through the tiebreakers which of those 5 teams will be ranked 5th.
Yes.
And would have to play in that first round.
Yes. So, like you said, Sean, the winners of the 5 pools are going to be ranked 1 to 5, no matter what. Yes. Right. So you could have a pool winner with a 4-2 record, say, and there's a 6-0 and 5-1 in another pool. Doesn't matter. That said, the tiebreaker is win-loss record. Okay, sure, you could get 5 teams at 6-0.
Yeah,
if 2 teams are tied, head-to-head results, where you wouldn't have any head-to-head results if all the top of the brackets are 6-0.
Yep.
Top of the pools. Then last stone draw ranking is used to break the tie after that.
Yeah.
So last stone draw is going to be important in this, because I think looking at the event, you and I are pretty sure there's going to be tiebreakers required.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And there won't be any tie breaking for the 12th team to get into the playoffs, right? It'll be head-to-head or last stone draw.
Yeah, so people will be eliminated on that. And yeah, it's likely to be last stone draw. I mean, it could be 2 teams from the same pool who are tied. Certainly that has happened before and could be the case. But yeah, it's likely that a team will be eliminated here on last stone draw. And you don't see that in big events frequently.
No, like hardly ever, really.
Yeah.
It's recently become more important, and we see it more at juniors. But it's going to loom large over this event, I'd say. Yeah,
it just feels strange to me to go from single eliminations to another single elimination to then seeding round to get to the page.
Yeah. There is a sort of a tough road for all the teams, right? There's the chance that any team, even the first place team, could lose their first game and be done.
Yeah, no question about it. But so that is the format to get into a page playoff from 12 down to 4. The prize money for this, little less than what you get in the 4-person team, but not bad, I have to say. First place gets 50,000, second place gets 30,000, third place with 20,000, fourth place 10,000, 5 through 8 6,500, and then the rest of the playoff teams $3,500. So nice prize money there in this mixed doubles. As Scott mentioned, the winner will go to whatever the world championship looks like, whenever that is going to take place. Still no confirmation from the World Curling Federation on that. Like with the men's and women's, that's important for Olympic qualification. Nobody has qualified. No country has qualified for the Olympic Games other than China as the host team. And the mixed doubles world championship will determine the teams that qualify for the world or for the Olympics, save for a couple spots for the last chance qualifier. So this is important for that purpose. Whoever goes to the world championship isn't just going to a typical world championship, they're going to the Olympic qualifier. So it'll be interesting to see that. And as Scott, as you mentioned, perhaps that went into the factoring for Curling Canada and coming up with this playoff format.
I think, yeah, absolutely it did in coming up with this. And I think this will pick the best champion to represent Canada. I think sort of having to go through everything that you do go through, it'll have the cream rise to the top.
Hopefully. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want the best team to come out and a team that'll come out and get that spot for Canada. That's what Curling Canada certainly wants. They don't want to go to a last chance qualifier.
Oh, no.
No. So, Scott, I went through the pools here, the 5 pools, and it's hard to assess them in terms of who's going to be good or which pool is the strongest. I couldn't help but notice one curious thing, though, is that you have a lot of 4-person teams, top 4-person teams with multiple members in this field. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Jones is here. Jocelyn Peterman is here. Caitlin Laws is here. You have Darren Moulding is here. Brendan Botcher is here. Yes. Gushu, Nichols, Gallant, they're here. All 4 members of the Anderson team are here. Scott, there's only 2 situations that I could find, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where teammates are in the same pool. So down in pool D, Shannon Burchard and Val Sweeting are both there. And then in pool E, Caitlin Laws and Lisa Weigel.
That's right. That does look like all of it. I'm
so it
quickly glancing through things. Yeah.
It seems a little fishy to me, right? Why doesn't Curling Canada want to give us these rivalry games?
Sean, I believe that they were sorted into pools based on the rankings.
Yeah. Sure. Give us what we want. Rivalry games.
Yeah. So looking quickly at the pool, Sean, does any pool strike you as being the quote unquote pool of death?
I think pool D, to be honest, strikes me as the toughest one. So just to run through it real quick, Shannon Burchard is playing with Caitlin Schneider, Kristen Karwacki, Darren Semigalski, Val Sweeting, Mark Kennedy, Elizabeth and Landon King. They're the representative of the Northwest Territories, and good luck to them. Bobby Sauter and Brendan Botcher, Carly Jones, Bryce Everest from Nova Scotia. Carly Jones is pretty good. I'm not familiar with Bryce Everest, but Carly Jones is good. And Emma Miscue and Ryan Fry round out that pool. Those are some really good players, Scott.
Yeah, I do think that is a pool that is really, really good.
Do you think another pool is better?
I wouldn't say that, but I don't think the winner is coming out of that pool, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like I look at pool B, you've got Jones and Lang, and you've got the Tucks.
Yep.
And then you've got Laurie St. George and Felix Asselin playing together, and then Carrie Anderson, Brad Gushu. I could see, Jones, Tucks, or Anderson, Gushu winning.
Yeah, the Desjardins are good. The Desjardins have made the playoffs in this before too. They're also in this pool.
Yes, and the Desjardins, you're right. They're sort of they're the Tucks of Quebec. And I think I lost to them actually when we played in the mixed doubles provincials. So very strong there. Pool A, Peterman Gallant, one of the favorites.
Gotta be.
Katrina Sahaidiak and Colton Lott, another one of what will likely be the favorites, at least a playoff team. Pool C, you've got Nancy Martin and Terrell Griffith. They've had a really strong mixed doubles 4 years, sort of leading up to this. Laura Walker, Kirk Myers, as we mentioned, they've won before. It's like
Negevin and Carruthers, right? Reed Carruthers really good at this discipline.
that's right. He played with Joanne Courtney
Yep.
a couple years ago. So yeah, very strong at the top in each of the pools. I think Pool D, I think you're right, it's probably the deepest, but I don't think it's the top of the top quality.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, yeah, another couple other teams. You got Courtney in this field with Darren Molding over in Pool A. Pool D might be the not quite the deepest. You have the Osem Wan and Trevor Bonneau from Northern Ontario. Ashley Quick, Mike Armstrong are the Saskatchewan reps. Mackenzie Mitchell and the great Greg Smith are the Newfoundland Labrador reps there. But in terms of the bigger names, you got Caitlin Laws with her nephew Connor Laws. I saw them play, I think 7 years ago when the mixed doubles championship was here. Connor Laws was 16 or 17 years old at the time. And Caitlin Laws just raved about him then, as saying like he like, obviously she's a big fan. He's her nephew, but just in terms of his ability, and I don't know what he does in terms of 4-person team or anything like that. But at that time, she was really, really like big on his upside as a player. Weigel and Epping, Tyler Tardy, Desiree Haas, and then John Morris, and the replacement for Rachel Holman, Danielle Shimaman. Am I saying that correctly, Scott?
I think it's Shimaman,
excuse me. So hopefully they have a good week. I got to tell you, John Morris could play with one of the cardboard cutouts, and I think that they would have a good chance to win. Just how good he is at the mixed doubles. So yeah, it's you're never going to replace Rachel Holman because she's one of the best in the world, but certainly don't count them out just because she's not there.
No, you're right. You're right about that for sure.
Yeah. So Scott, we have a bunch of players here as we run through the teams who have been in the bubble already. Some of the men will have not left. Obviously, Brendan Botcher and Mark Kennedy, those type of guys, they didn't go home. Well, maybe Kennedy went home for a day or two. But, you got all these guys, Myers, Nichols, Carruthers, who were in the bubble. On the women's side, same thing. Weigel, Laws, the entirety of the Carrie Anderson team, Nancy Martin, Laura Wire. There's just so many people here who have been in the bubble already. Do you expect there to be a bubble advantage for the teams who have players who have been in the bubble? And is that advantage greater if both of your players have already been in the bubble, a la Peterman Gallant, for instance?
Sean, this is really hard to say because the teams that have both players that have been in the bubble are just really good curlers.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say if their advantage is that, they've been in the bubble already, or if their advantage is just that they're better than the other teams. I mean, I don't expect a provincial champion, looking at them all, to contend for this. I would be surprised, frankly, if any of them made the 12-team playoffs.
Larry St. George and Felix Aslam, maybe. They were both bubbled.
They were bubbled. So I guess we'll see if their bubbling is helping them at all. But I mean, they're in a pretty tough pool.
Yeah.
As you mentioned before. So yeah, for me, it's really hard to say if the quote unquote bubble advantage is really something, or if it's just that their teams are really good. Because I don't think there's anybody who you look at that's like half their team was in the bubble. And like even a team like Clancy Grandy and Patrick Jansen, they were both in the bubble as fifths.
Yeah.
Right. So they both have the experience with the protocols and sort of the procedures for getting from the hotel to the arena and all that stuff.
Right.
Everybody else who's sort of coming in, I mean, is John Morris and Danielle Schumann going to be worse because she wasn't in the bubble?
Maybe.
I mean, I guess we'll find out of that, but like,
Yeah. Well, I just say that, Scott, just because we saw at both the Scotties and the Brier, the teams would get off to somewhat tentative starts and in a couple of cases bad starts where they weren't making shots, in part because they hadn't been able to play. And then also this is a different environment where people have not really played in this sort of situation before. So I do wonder if just having that experience, especially on the men's side, right? The women have been home for a couple of weeks and the men will be coming off either 3 or 4 days in most cases, a week at the most of time off, whereas the women have had a little more time off. So maybe there's been time for a wee bit of rust to build up, but probably not that much. And so I do wonder how that'll play out, especially with these teams where you have one player who's coming in. So Brendan Botcher, for instance, he just won the Brier, and Bobby Sauter is coming into the bubble. So how much ahead of the game is he compared to her from where they would normally be as a team, because he's just been in this environment and she's coming in cold to it, right? That's the dynamic that I think is, I'm kind of curious to see how that'll ultimately play out.
I mean, I guess I think that's his wife, Sean. So like,
Fiance.
you know, fiance. Okay, sorry. So I don't know how.
I'm talking about it like from a curling perspective, though, right? She hasn't been playing high level games against some of the best teams in the world. He has.
Right, but he's also maybe having a bit of a letdown after just winning the most important game of his life, and now he's like,
Potentially.
"What the hell? I'm
Potentially.
playing in this dumb mixed doubles game against somebody I've never heard of before. Like, who cares?"
All right. Well, okay. Let me throw out another scenario for you then, or another possibility, or another question I would have. Take Sahaidik and Lot, who very good. They've had a great run. Lost the final of this event 2 years ago,
Mhm.
I think. So I mean, they're really good at mixed doubles. Neither of them have been in the bubble. We don't know what access they've had to the local facilities in their area. So in a game in a normal year against Peterman and Gallant, they have a good chance to beat them on normal circumstances. But Peterman and Gallant bubbled. They've played here. They have a sense of the ice. They have a sense of the rocks. So Heidick and Lot coming in cold. Does that skew things where, let's say, Peterman and Gallant would win 60% of the games between the teams? It's just to pull a number out. Does that increase their percentage now to like 75, 80% because of that experience?
Maybe, maybe. I know this is really wishy-washy for me to say. I'm just looking at the schedule for Sahaidik and Sahaidik.
So Heidick.
I had it before and I lost it. Sahaidik and Lot, and they start off with Clancy Grandy and Pat Jansen, then play their next game against the team Alberta. There's
Brittany Tran and Aaron Slachinsky. That's a good team.
Aaron Slachinsky. Very good team.
Yeah.
And then move on to Peterman Gallant. So, if they've gotten their practice and a couple of games under their belts, maybe they'll be acclimated by then. But I don't think it's like that big a deal, to be honest.
All right. Well, we shall find out, shall we?
Yes, shall we indeed.
All right. The other thing, I'm curious about, Scott, the teams that haven't played together, a couple of them I am so curious to see. And to be honest, there's a part of me that wants to just see a couple of them not do the greatest. Not for any reason other than skips can't sweep. And if Carrie Anderson and Brad Gushu do poorly this week, it would be a confirmation of the need to sweep and have a good sweeper on mixed doubles. Of course, I don't actually wish them ill will, and I would expect them to have success. But take a matchup or a pairing like that: Carrie Anderson, Brad Gushu, two skips. What do you expect out of those type of pairings of people we haven't seen together before and back end players together?
They're two of the best shot makers in the world, so I think they'll be fine. There's always a chance, that that maybe they miss a shot or two because of sweeping or lack of sweeping. to me, those two players are maybe smart enough to give themselves an extra broom, like on the line, right? Instead of knowing that you don't have the sweeping that you're usually used to. The other sorts of pairings that we haven't seen before, again, they're just great players. So I don't expect them to be bad. I might expect them to, take a game to get your communication together, get your strategy, together. Like, I think that could be a disadvantage, to be honest, to the teams that have already been in the bubble and maybe haven't had a chance to sit down, go over their strategy, go over their philosophies of playing. So like the teams that haven't played together have both been in the bubble. That might be a disadvantage. What do you think of that?
No, I think being on the ice is I think it's a way bigger advantage. I mean, you can talk, you can FaceTime, you can do whatever, you can Zoom. You can talk about strategy, but getting out there, feeling the ice under your foot, throwing rocks in a pressure situation, I think that's a much bigger advantage than a potential disadvantage of not being able to have face-to-face time.
All right. So it sounds to me, Sean, like we both think that the teams with the better players are going to win more games.
This is a shocking conclusion that we've come to. I do think, Scott, that when we look at mixed doubles and the teams that have had success at the international level coming from Canada, the international game at mixed doubles is very different because you have some specialized teams. And I mean, ultimately Switzerland's just going to win, right? Like or Switzerland's going to do very, very well, I should say. But, you have some specialists there, but in other countries, people are getting into it. Certainly Nicodine, Anna Hasselberg, their teams play mixed doubles. On the Scottish side, we've seen players from Eve Muirhead's team and Bruce Mowatt's team get involved in mixed double. So it is growing for the elite 4-person players getting involved. But on the Canadian side, the people who have had success, great success, when we go back to the qualification for the Olympics in 2018, that was Reed Carruthers, Joanne Courtney. So you had a great front end player there. Walker and Myers, front end player in Kirk Myers at the time, is there. Peterman and Gallant last year, 2 front end players. I do think that this is an event that does kind of skew to your front end, or at the very least a vice level player. And I think that's part of the reason why John Morris and Caitlin Laws were so successful and had such a great run at the Olympics, is that the skill set for this leans towards those middle positions as opposed to skips. That's my sense of it. I don't think we have enough of a sample size yet, though.
Yeah, and you can argue that skips of the 4-person game are very used to that kind of style of game, right? They've, what do you say, cut their teeth on 4-person curling. And so their default strategy would be, what would I do in a 4-person game, right? Where the people who have really embraced the mixed doubles, learned all about what you need to do to maximize your team's strengths in that format, have been the ones that have been able to succeed a little bit faster, let's say. Yeah. Not to say that these skips can't do it. They're brilliant curlers and should be able to figure it out. But we've seen thus far, like you said, the advantage is to those maybe thirds and seconds more than anybody else.
Yeah. And even just the skill set that you develop as a skip, you're judging weight based off the rock coming towards you, which is different from walking beside it. You're used to standing there and watching the line as it comes towards you. You don't have that same thing. It's just the format is so different that the things that you're great at and make you great as a 4-person skip kind of go away in the mixed doubles game. And when you're used to sweeping, following rocks down, that I think is a big advantage here. So it'll just be fun to see, though, how this plays out. At some point, skips are going to win this thing. At some point. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable, yeah.
Yeah. We'll just see if it's this year. All right. So, Scott, for our picks, let's do it a little differently this time because we're not going to pick 12 playoff teams. That's too many
Heck
playoff
no,
teams.
that's too many teams.
I'm going straight for it, Scott. Who is the winner of the 2021 Canadian Mixed Doubles Curling Championship?
Peterman and Gallant.
Peterman and Gallant. Okay. So you're going with a back-to-back belly-to-belly championship for
I'm
Peterman
going
and
real
Gallant.
chalk on this one.
I don't know. Would this count as back-to-back? Did they play it last year, or did they win 2 years ago and they didn't run one last year?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So they're the defending champion.
Yes.
Whenever it is they want it. They are Peterman and Gallant are the defending champion. Scott, I am going to go a different way here, and I am going to go with a member of Carrie Anderson's team.
We really thought about this a lot, hey?
Yeah, I think one of the members of Team Anderson is going to do the double bubble championship.
Whoa.
And go for the triple at the Worlds. Scott, I'm going with our gal Val and Mark Kennedy.
I thought you might, Sean.
Yeah, that I think two great thirds. Val's game since she moved to the third position is just been phenomenal, and she was a great skip, of course, getting to a couple of Scotties finals and I believe a Canada Cup final as well, if not winning the Canada Cup as a skip. And then Mark Kennedy just is Mark Kennedy. So I'm going to go with Val Sweeting, Mark Kennedy to win here in 2021.
Can't go wrong with that. I picked a Mark Kennedy team in the Brier bubble, Sean.
Didn't work.
So didn't work. Hopefully the luck will be on your side.
Yeah, Scott, I like that you say you can't go wrong with that pick, basically indicating that
I did go wrong.
But your pick is wrong? Like, what?
I mean,
if I can't go wrong with my pick, that means you think my pick's going to win.
I mean, you can't go wrong picking Mark Kennedy. He's such a great player, right? Nobody's ever going to give you a guff about that.
Yeah. Well, someone might. Don't at me. So hopefully it's a fun week for everybody. Sort of alluded to off the top, TSN is doing 3 draws a day. There are 5 draws a day of curling, and TSN is going to do the first 3 of them. So I believe 10 a.m. Eastern. What's the middle one, Scott? The last one starts at 4:30 Eastern, I believe.
Oh, hold on, Sean. I've got it right here. I'm close to seeing it. It's just on the tip of my... so Eastern time, 10:30, 1:30, 4:30, 7:30, 10:30. So they're 3 hours apart.
Okay, so they're not showing the night games. So the 10, 1:30, 4:30 Eastern time are what you're going to get for TV. And then I believe they're doing all of the playoffs throughout the page and all that. So,
and that'll be the playoffs will be a Wednesday, March 24th.
Yeah. So this is a short event.
Well, it's a week.
Short compared to what we've seen.
Yes. It's 7-8 days instead of 9.
Yeah. Because they got to flip it around for the men or for the Grand Slams.
Yeah. So the Grand Slams come on the week after this is over.
Yeah. Or sorry, men's first, then the Grand Slams. They got to flip it for the men's world championship, then the Grand Slams, then the women's. So much is happening.
A lot is happening. A lot is happening in the bubble.
Yeah. So they're going to have to flip around everything. And I think they do have to get all these teams out of the bubble because the international teams are going to require more of a quarantine once they get to Calgary. So it's not so much for the ice and flipping the building. They need the space in the hotel and they need all of the teams out so that the international teams can safely quarantine on their arrival in Calgary for the men's worlds.
That's right.
So I think that'll do it for us. We are going to do a broom stack or 2 through this. Follow us on social media. We will tweet out when we're going to do a Facebook broom stack. Not going to be daily for the mixed doubles like we did for the Brier and the Scotties, but we'll do 1 or 2 just to talk about all the fun and frivolity from Calgary. And then we'll also do a recap podcast once this one is done. And of course, if you haven't listened to our Brier one yet, we did drop that last night. So check it out. We talk about all the things that happened in the 2021 Tim Hortons Brier, including a very interesting championship Sunday out there in Calgary. And of course, if you want to get all these episodes, do subscribe to the show wherever it is you get your podcast. Do the likes, ratings, comments, all that fun stuff. Helps other people find the show, keeps us growing. And do follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Game of Stones Pod. And the broom stacking is facebook.com/Game of Stones podcast. You can check out all of our ones from the Brier. And as I said, we'll do one or two during the mixed doubles just to keep it fresh for us and keep things going. Hopefully something interesting happens that we can just break it down in the moment. So that should be a lot of fun. And you can follow along with Scott at Scott Likes TV, and I am at the Sean Graham. And do head over to GameOfStonesPod.com. New merch is available with the t-shirts still going to Food Banks Canada, and the new products, the baseball tee, the hoodies, and the toque. That's all going to the Sandra Schmerler Foundation. So all proceeds are going. We're matching them as well. So check out some of the new things over there at GameOfStonesPod.com. You can also find all of our past episodes there and a blog post explaining Olympic qualification and really why this bubble is happening. So people can get to the Olympic Games next year. That's why all of this is happening. So
That's right.
So Scott, enjoy the games.
You too, Sean.
Thank you. I intend to. And enjoy the games, all of you out there. Just a quick note for our friends in the United States. The media guide does say it's going to be available on ESPN3. There's some discussion about that. I don't know what's actually been decided, but hopefully all of our American friends can watch. If not, we got some VPN recommendations. You can hit us up, GameOfStonesPodcast@gmail.com if you need any help in that regard. But, geo blocking is great, right, Scott?
Yeah, maybe we can share a promo code or something.
Yeah, there you go. So enjoy the games, everybody. We'll be back next week on the feed with a recap, and do follow along on social media over the course of the mixed doubles. But until we talk again, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.